All right. All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. This is the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee meeting. It is Thursday, March 17th, 2022. We are in the Pioneer Library, and we're also meeting on Google Meet. This is a continuation of our March 10th, 2022 meeting. A link to view the school committee meeting will be on the website at www.pvrsdk12.org, or you can view it at www.facebook.com/BNC television. The public is welcome to attend in person or to watch via the links above, but in the event of an issue with the links, the public meeting in person shall continue to proceed. So it is now 7:08 p.m. We will open the meeting with a roll call vote. So Melissa.
Melissa Gary, Bernardston, present.
Jeannie Milton, present.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, here.
Alan Genevieve Warwick, present.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, here.
Stephanie? Stephanie's giving a thumbs up. Nathan
Nathan Schwartz, Warwick here.
and Jim?
Jim Bell here.
And Julie Burke Northfield here. Great. Are there any citizens' comments? I do have one to read here, but are there any in the audience? Okay. So we actually have a citizen's comment here from one of our members, who is Stephanie Winslow. She's currently suffering from a case of laryngitis, so poor Stephanie. Sorry, Stephanie. But she's really sending this as a parent. So I'm going to read this now on her behalf. Dear School Committee, I would like to address concerns over the current second grade class at Northfield Elementary School and the anticipated vote for school choice seats tonight. Currently, the second grade class has 22 students, which is not enough to split the class. As a parent of 2 of the students in the class, I can tell you firsthand staff has been having issues with providing adequate services for the children. Parents have received emails regarding concerns with recess and dismissal time behaviors. It would benefit the children and staff to make the second grade, which will be the third grade for 2022-2023, school year into 2 classes and leave the school choice seats open. When the school committee voted to close school choice seats earlier in the year due to the challenging year that staff were facing, oh, sorry, I read that a little wrong. So it looks like a little bit of typo stuff, but that's okay. It says, so the school committee had voted to close school choice seats earlier this year due to the challenging year that staff were facing. It only makes sense to open the seats back up to give an opportunity to grow our district and give these kids the support they need. The challenges this class presents are not unique to the school year and will continue to follow as they grow within the school district. By splitting the class, it will help negate many of the issues staff is having. The pandemic greatly impacted this grade. They missed half of a kindergarten year, hybrid for first grade, loss of a teacher partway through second grade, and now with a new teacher. Their social emotional development is lacking, and they will continue to need additional support through their years with PVRSD. Thank you, Stephanie Winslow. Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, we don't have any further citizens' comments at this time, so we will move on to the minutes from February 3rd, 2022. So this one is just essentially a notification of the executive session, correct, Ann? Yeah.
The meeting went right into executive session and it did not
Come back, okay.
but it's still the minutes.
Right, okay. So I will entertain a motion to
I'll
accept.
make the motion to accept these minutes
Great.
as written.
Thank you.
I second that. Karen?
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genevieve Warwick, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Robin Knight Leiden, yes.
Stephanie said yes in the chat. Nathan?
Nathan Schwartz, Warwick, yes.
Jim Bell, yes.
Okay, and Julie Burke Northfield, yes. All right, the minutes of February 17th, 2022. So these are the ones that we had discussed last week, and then I believe that they were revisited both by Alan and Ann. I know that you went back through and reread them, re-listened to the meeting. Okay. 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 Does anyone have any changes, or we can entertain a motion to accept them as written?
I move that we accept them as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton Bernardston, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Oh, Robin Knight Blyden is abstained.
Nathan?
Nathan Schwartz, Warwick, yes.
Jim?
Jim Bell, yes.
Oh, okay. Stephanie, I'm sorry that I didn't see your note in the chat. One thing Stephanie had said under number 7 in an unanticipated business, the second was made by Jeannie, not Stephanie.
Do you want me to take back my motion?
That was my motion.
Oh, it was, I'm sorry.
As amended? As amended, okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. And Julie Burke Northfield, yes, as amended. Great. Okay. Yes.
May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
I apologize to the school committee. We need to postpone a discussion of the draft 2022-23 school year calendar. There's a quirk related to how the December vacation falls, and I need to communicate more with both unions to think about some creative ways of managing that. So I'm sorry, I need to postpone that for next month. And I note that Danica Kaminsky is here. We have Maren Law and Brenda Beck here also for the preschool tuition discussion. And just in the interest of allowing them to get home, might it be possible to move that item up, number 3, to become a number 2?
Sure. Are there any objections to that?
I'll make a motion if it's necessary.
Do you know if that's necessary, Anne?
Yeah, historically,
Okay. So you, we want to move, and Robin, do you mind muting Robin? For some
I'm
reason,
sorry.
No, that's okay. So we're going to move we're essentially going to move number 2 down.
We're going to exchange number 2 and
2 and
3.
3 will be switched.
Yes. We will switch number 2 and 3, so,
So I will make a motion that we, under number 4 business, that we exchange number 2 for number 3, putting the preschool tuition at number 2, private vehicles at number 3.
Okay.
And also omitting a discussion on the school calendar year.
postpone, yep.
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
Nathan Schwartz, yes.
Jim?
Bell, yes.
And Stephanie wrote in the chat, yes. And Julie Burke Northfield, yes. Okay, great. So then, Danica Tominski, Bernardston Elementary School, grade 6 overnight field trip to Groton, Massachusetts for Nature's Classroom. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, and Dr. Carrier has raised her hand. You can go ahead, Dr. Carrier.
Hi, thank you so much. I was just wondering if I could maybe say a few things and then pass it on over to Danica about the field trip.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go right ahead now.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to take a moment and thank everybody for taking a look at this evening. And I wanted to share a little bit of why I support the field trip. Over the past 3 years, our students have had a lot of loss around social connections. The loss of the social connections has really resulted in a lot of social deficits. At a previous staff meeting I held earlier in the year, we talked about what the deficits have done for our students, not only local, but just on a national level. I would love this as an opportunity to increase the ability of our students to have a greater social connection and to really work on their teamwork and building skills. Sixth grade has traditionally always gone on a field trip prior to heading off to Pioneer as they're part of like a graduation, if you would. And so this field trip, I really feel engulfs not only that component of the tradition, but also a greater sense of the social supports that they need. If in the future we consider and continue to look forward at sixth grade going to Pioneer, this is the type of field trip that could really enhance relationship and skill building, and possibly having counselors from Pioneer support sixth graders going over to form some better relationships, just to help that transition smoother coming into the new year. So I just wanted to kind of share some pieces about that, and then I wanted to pass it over to Ms. Tominski, who has experience in going on beautiful field trips like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. C. So I used to teach sixth grade. Am I close enough?
Not for the people at home.
You have to eat it. Yeah.
Is that better?
That's better.
Ooh, this is a new experience for me. So I used to work at Swift River School up in New Salem, and I was lucky enough to take my sixth graders to Nature's Classroom for 5 years. And it is a transformational experience. I would take students who had never been away from home before and who were very anxious and worried. I took students with serious medical conditions, and I can attest to the ways that the staff is able to manage things, the way they're trained. We did pay, we're planning on paying extra for a registered nurse for the whole week, because I do have some interesting medical needs in my classroom, so we wanted to make sure that, that those kiddos were supported and had what they needed. But I have some quotes from some of my former students of what the experience was for them. So just straight out of the mouths of sixth graders. My favorite part was getting to sleep over with my friends. We found common interests and grew together as a stronger team. I learned that I can be more successful with good communication, cooperation, commitment, and care. I learned that as a group we may have differences, but we all share common goals and we all care about each other. I learned that even if I do not think I can do something, I can do it. I just have to believe in myself and not give up when I face an obstacle. I also learned that I have the best class in the whole world. I learned that if I take a risk, someone will be there for me no matter what. I also learned that I'm terrified of heights. I learned that when we work together, we can accomplish anything. I learned that compromising is important. I learned to give ideas other than my own a chance. I learned that everyone is strong in their own way. And then finally, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to go to Nature's Classroom. It changed my life. So this is something that at Swift River, we traditionally went in September, which was a really interesting way to bring us together as a team right from the get-go. But after working with these students, it would be such a blessing to be able to go with them and give them this opportunity to be immersed in science and have their hands-on experiments that they get to do and get to go hiking and have our late night campfires and just celebrate ourselves as a team and everything that they have accomplished this year because they've worked so hard. So I don't know if you have questions for me or?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I can comment on this. I don't know if Dr. Santos is still running Nature's Classroom. He is.
Yeah.
So many years ago, when I was in the Athol Royals School District, I coordinated this, and we had all the elementary schools feed into the middle schools. So this was an opportunity, as you're suggesting, which was fabulous, to bring all the sixth graders in the district to get together and spend that week before they went to middle school. So it's a fantastic experience, and I'm really pleased. It's a tremendous amount of work, and for you to step up and do that, there are so many accommodations you have to make behind the scenes to ensure that kids can go. Just question, there usually is, well, I've experienced to be a couple of parents that had, didn't want to go in. And so we had to prepare a program for a few students that parents, for whatever reason, did not want them to participate. Are you experiencing that at all, or we're 100% in?
As far as I've heard so far, 100%.
That's
and in
great.
the past, I've never had a child.
That's
not go.
terrific.
So no matter whether they could pay or couldn't
Yeah,
pay, we
yeah.
figured that out. I used to joke that fundraising was my second full-time job that I didn't get paid for. So it's a pleasure, and every second that I put into it, it just pays off so much in the benefits that.
Well, thank you so
the
much
kiddos
for
get.
doing this, because you're giving these kids a real gift.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? I just have to say that, and I'm not quite sure what grade I was in. I think that it was in right around the middle school age. We just went for one overnight, actually, in the Wendell State Forest.
Yes.
And it was one overnight. But I remember it, and I'm 45.
Forever.
But I remember that, and I remember spending time with kids that I'd really hardly spoken to. We had hardly spoken to each other. Back then, the class sizes were a lot larger, even in Franklin County. So our class could have over 100 kids.
Right.
So, it was an opportunity to get to know and to connect with friends.
Yeah. The other neat thing is sometimes students who may struggle in the classroom, whether it be academically or with behavior or emotionally, they get
They
to camp and
shine
it's
out.
their time
Yeah.
to shine.
Yeah.
And it's such, that is something that watching some students just step into that light is always one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for doing this.
I have another
Yeah,
question.
Karina.
So this is only the sixth graders at Bernardston Elementary? You're not coordinating with NES?
Not
or-
this year, but our hope is that if things go well this year, that maybe that's something we can figure out.
Okay.
Sure they will. You want to have a motion to approve?
Looks like Dr. Carrier has something to say. Go ahead, Kelly.
I just wanted to comment that in planning for this, I worked with and talked to Ms. Damaris because we have some shared staff that will be in attendance, and her response was, "You're going to nature's classroom." So I think that planning for the future and getting both of the classrooms together to support a transition going to Pioneer, or having fifth graders transition to Pioneer, whatever it is, I think that this is a great opportunity for us to see how it goes and take a look at things, and in hopes that that could be something for our future too.
That's great. Okay, thank you. And so, Alan, you were going to...
I move that we approve the BSC Grade 6 overnight field trip to Groton, Mass's Nature's Classroom.
I second that.
So it looks like, is it 3 nights?
It's 3 nights, yes.
3 nights.
Yeah.
I just wanted to...
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and you seconded, Karen? Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a
Sure.
question.
Yes.
Just curious if I have to abstain if my child's participating. Can I?
No.
No.
Okay, great.
Only if you financially, if
If
we were voting on funding for it or something.
if you wanted to fund the whole thing, we would.
Right. All right, so you can lead us off.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Raina Dastu, yes.
Robin Knipe, yes.
Nathan,
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Jim Bell,
Jim Bell, yes.
and Stephanie has a thumbs up. All right, and Julie Burke, yes. Thank you, wonderful.
Danica, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, I really appreciate it. No, just
Take pictures. Bring them back.
All right. Okay, so next we have the 2022-2023 preschool tuition.
And Alan is kindly handing out a revised overview document, and I will share it online on the screen.
I appreciate it. You're welcome.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, it's so
Tyler?
funny, it's mirrored.
Tyler?
Good, but I'm not that good.
Tyler? What's on my, it looks like what I have is backwards on the screen.
But you know what, it's transmitting correctly.
It's the whole screen is.
I didn't think I had, but let's look it up.
Tyler, what is being displayed though is correct.
Right,
But it's
but she might have
backwards.
a mirrored setting when she's
Yeah, I know.
sharing it. There could be a setting.
But it's on the me, it's,
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not for us.
So when it shares.
oh,
it
right,
mirrors.
I see, I can see it right correctly.
Yeah, it is.
I was only thinking of the folks at home, not us. Well, we have it in our packet. We have it in our packet, so we can look at it there.
Except that the document I just shared is an update.
Oh,
To your left.
But
We have that.
they would,
It's okay on your end, Tyler?
yeah, I'll talk to my husband tonight because he's in the club.
Basically an extension issue, and I'll hit mirror.
Yep,
Oh.
there you go. Yep.
Wow. Magic.
Didn't know you'd be so successful, huh? It's St. Patrick's
Oh, wonderful,
Day.
thank you.
It's the luck of the Irish, and everybody's Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
All right, you should be good.
See, didn't you miss me?
all right, so if you could just introduce yourselves into the mic, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Maren Law. I'm the Early Education Coordinator for the district, and I'm joined by Brenda.
I'm Brenda Beck, and I handle the financials for the Early Education Department.
So tonight, we are here to give you an overview of the preschool program.
Just pull it towards you a little bit more, Maren.
Is that better? Okay. And ask for consideration in approving a rate change on our sliding fee scale that we have. Before I get to the sliding fee scale, though, I just wanted to give you some information about our program, which I know you have in front of us, and it's up here on the screen, but I will go through it quickly. So to be eligible for our preschool program, you must be 3 or 4 years old. The child must be 3 by September 1st, unless the child is an early intervention referral, and they come to us at any point in time. They turn 3 during our school year. We take residents of Bernardston, Leiden, Northfield, and Warwick. They are our top priority, and if after we've sort of closed enrollment and we have some spaces open, then we open it up to outside communities. Greenfield, Athol have actually already received a couple applications. We do have 16 slots available per day, but the number of students changes a little bit depending on the schedule that families choose. So we can have, as you'll see at the bottom,
Hello.
It's Michelle Girusso calling in.
Oh. It's in Florida again.
Okay,
so we can enroll even more than 16 students. Families have the option of enrolling Monday through Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Our hours of program are the typical school day, Monday through Thursday, 8:45 to 3 o'clock, with the exception of Fridays, which is a 12 o'clock release for our preschool students. And that allows our teachers to prep and plan and clean more so than ever now. And partake in professional development. Tuition, there's no charge for children with individual education plans that specify participation in a preschool program in that IEP plan. And now we'll just sort of jump down to our enrollment numbers, our current enrollment numbers. So as you'll see, Northfield has 18 students enrolled this year, which that number is comprised of 7 part-time students, 11 full-time students, and in that 18, there are 3 students on IEPs, individualized education plans. Bernardston, we have a total of 23. At Bernardston this year, we have a full preschool program, and then we have a pre-KK. And so our number is a total of 23. We have 20 full-time students, 3 part-time students, and then within that number, also 3 on individualized education plans. The breakdown between the preschool and the pre-KK, the pre-KK classroom has 7 full-time preschool students. So I think actually they all 5 now. Our 4-year-olds turned 5.
Official,
So
this
we have a
big,
5
yeah.
and a 6-year-old.
Oh, big.
Yes. I think we share the same birthday, so that's why I remembered it. And in our preschool classroom, that is Tiffany Thomas's room, is 13 full-time students. So now we'll just shift to so these are projections for eligible preschool students among the 4 towns. So in Northfield and Warwick, and this is predominantly Northfield information, though I have a little bit of Warwick data. 16 4-year-olds, 15 3-year-olds, so that's a projected total of about 31 who would be eligible, and Bernardston-Leiden, 17 4-year-olds, 10 3-year-olds, to give us a total of 27. And then within that number, we also are accounting for early intervention referrals that we might have, and students on IEPs. Students on IEPs, for Northfield next year is higher than Bernardston and Leiden at this point in time. Does anyone have any questions about that information?
The students on IEPs, do they have a para assigned to them, or are you able to share a para for kids that may not need full?
Yep, so it depends, and sometimes there's a 2-on-1 situation. Sometimes, the student comes into our program and we assess and see if they need it, or if it's just an inclusive support. Okay, great. I'm just going to go on to the proposed preschool tuition. So we use a sliding fee scale here for families who are interested. Once upon a time, we were a Better Start or Head Start program, and we had a lot of funding that came through from that. And from my understanding, and Brenda can share some historical perspective, is that that funding more or less dried up. They couldn't fund and help us here in Pioneer. We didn't have that many students that were eligible because they helped to fund low-income families to help those families access preschool. But the Head Start program used a sliding fee scale, which was the EEC income eligibility table. And so after that funding dried up from them, again, Brenda can provide more information, it was decided to use that same table but break it up into 4 tiers instead of the 2 that the state has. And so that would allow more families access to our program. And I don't know if you want to say anything further about that?
You've done a pretty good job.
Okay. So Brenda so kindly looks at the EEC income eligibility table every year, and she adjusts our sliding fee scale as well. And over the years, things have increased. And so we have, like I said, the 4 tiers. And the way it was last year into this year, we had, as you can see, Tier 1, $6.50 a day. Tier 2 was $17 a day. It was $21 a day for Tier 3, and then Tier 4 was $38 a day. And again, this is based on income and family size. And so in looking at these numbers, and I started this position last year, and a lot has changed with COVID and numbers and enrollment. I was feeling like the 17 to 21 and then the 21 to 38 wasn't as equal as it could be. And so I would like to propose changing the $21 to $27 a day, and that gives a more equal increase between the 3 tiers, about a $10 difference. And that would affect, so we have some families moving that are moving, or spending a second year rather, in preschool next year. And if they still fall into tier 3, that could potentially affect 2 families. So I would just like to ask also to make an exemption to have those 2 families remain in the 21, the rate of 21, if they still fall into tier 3 for this coming year. Does anyone have any questions about tuition?
What's the algorithm to go from its, the full day price to the half day price?
Yeah, Fiona.
When we first set this up, the decision, we took a look at the entire day. And the time on learning is much more heavily spent in the morning than in the afternoon. The afternoon comprises of lunch, nap time, and then there is some time on learning in the afternoon. But we felt that the heaviest hitting part of the day for education was in the morning. So we felt that we would put the more of the weight on the morning part and as far as cost is concerned, and lesser on the afternoon.
Very good
So-
explanation. Very good logic. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Robin?
Can you just raise this screen so I can see tier? Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Yep.
And just one other thing to note, this year, we made this available to families on our website so they can determine whether or not they want to send us their finances if they know they don't qualify for the sliding fee scale.
If I may, I want to thank Maren and Brenda because they are modestly not sharing that they have revised the preschool application packet. Previously, people needed to contact the office and then have a packet sent out to them by the mail, and then the packet. And Maren and Brenda have revised things. They've streamlined the number of pages in the packet. They've made it much easier to read, to complete, and the packets are available online. So folks can simply download them, complete them, and email them back. So thank you for doing that.
So are you looking for a vote to just approve the tuition, or does in addition to the tuition, do we need to include to allow the 2 families to continue at the same tuition rate, right?
Correct.
So that, if that makes
Yeah.
sense, then I make that
Yep,
motion.
and it did say preschool tuition discussion and possible vote. So yeah, so I would assume that we would include those 2
Okay.
families in the,
So moved, that motion.
all right. Is there a second?
Well, I think Stephanie has a chat.
Does she?
Something popped up.
Oh,
I said
okay.
her name.
Yes, thank you. Stephanie, is there a sibling discount and/or snacks or meals provided?
Sibling discount.
I can discuss the discount.
Yep.
At one time, we did allow for a sibling discount, and we did get rid of that about 3 years ago.
Okay.
3-4 years ago. Within the past few years, we did eliminate that.
Okay.
We also, there was a time when we did give a discount, just to be very upfront about things. There was a time when if a teacher within our district that was out of district, that did not live in the district and did have the child come into the school, we did apply the sliding fee scale to that teacher. And that we did abolish that also.
Okay. And what about meals, snacks, and
So we don't provide them in the classroom. The students have access to the public school lunch and snacks, or they can bring a home snack.
okay. Robin, your hand is raised, and then Jeannie and Melissa.
I just had a quick question about the numbers. It seems like there's quite an increase in the numbers, and how is that going to be addressed?
In which numbers?
in the projected numbers for next year, it seems like there's quite an increase for both schools.
It's,
That's eligible.
The number of students.
Yeah, the eligible, yeah. It says, well, it was, you had preschool 18, Northfield, Warwick is going to be 31 this year. Am I reading this right, or am I looking at this wrong?
So on the left is the current enrollment numbers, and yes, on the right is the eligible preschool students that are in the area.
Right.
And so Northfield, Warwick, we are projecting 2 preschools at Northfield for next year to accommodate this number and to accommodate the number of students we may or may not have on IEPs to create two balanced classrooms. As we learned from this year and from Bernardston, the way preschool and kindergarten numbers sort of shake out is to be determined, and so then it does leave some flexibility to create a pre-KK, as Renee Kier can attest to. And so we just have to kind of give it a little bit more time. Our enrollment closes next week for preschool, and we just had our second kindergarten registration. So we've had kindergarten registration at Northfield and Bernardston. So we just have to give parents a little bit more time, and then we'll start to firm up those numbers.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Jeannie?
So you said students have access to the school lunch program.
Yes.
So if they meet the free or reduced, that would also apply to them for free or reduced lunch? Just as it does grades kindergarten through 6, 12? Okay.
and right now, there's no need for free or reduced status. Everybody gets free school meals right now.
Right, but I'm just, in the future,
In the
just
future.
But
for
yes,
my mind.
they qualify for free. and
Thank you.
So along that, qualifying for free and reduced, if parents choose not to submit that paperwork and they do qualify, that does affect funding, right, on how many students we have free and reduced. So if a parent looks at this, right, so that sometimes there's this feeling of pride locally where not all families fill out the free and reduced lunch forms.
I thought the state was now pulling that information. You don't have to fill out a
that was
form
my
anymore.
question.
Yeah,
That was
so
my
the state's
question.
pulling that information from the income.
Yes, so now, and I was just talking to Mike Honorato about this. This was an enormous change. And when I was a Boston Public Schools parent, Boston was one of the first cities in the Commonwealth to move to this universal free meals. It was terrific. My kids could just get breakfast and lunch at school. It caused a huge disruption to determining the number of students who would pull in additional funding because they came from economically challenged homes. Now, and I asked Mike the name, there's a specific term for what the federal government and state governments are doing now, which is they are cross-referencing kids whose families are enrolled in SNAP or Mass Health or other programs.
Okay.
And the federal government did not include extended funding for universal free meals in legislation recently signed. So we may be looking at a return to paying for meals in the coming school year. My understanding from Mike is that there is some conversation at the state level in Massachusetts that the state might pick up the cost of meals for students who do not qualify for free and reduced. We may be seeing a return to applications for free and reduced. That was a long-winded way of saying we might see a return.
Yeah, so that was my question. So if families look at this and they choose not to apply for the sliding scale, right, and they just say, okay, we're going to pay this, but they do qualify, right? There is reasons for that. So that's what I was just curious about, because that does affect funding for the district. That's all.
But it's an individual decision.
And I just had that conversation with a parent yesterday, so.
Right, it is. And yes.
Okay, so there's a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Nobody
Oh, I'm
seconded.
sorry.
Nobody said.
Nobody.
No,
Thank you.
Melissa had a question in the middle
Okay.
of.
I'll second it.
But you will second it. All right. Any further discussion now? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Oh, Stephanie has a raised hand.
Let's go back.
Maybe that's her yes.
You'll need to type. Okay, she's typing. She near a rattlesnake or something?
Her voice was terrible. Yes.
Okay, for the two families who would be grandfathered into that tier 3, is this for the 2022-2023 year only? Or if they had future children, would they still be grandfathered in?
Just for this coming school year.
Just for the coming school year?
That's a good clarification.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. Okay.
Okay. we'll
All
go
right,
back.
so, Melissa?
Was that in the original motion?
It was,
It
to
was,
include
yep.
two families, yep. You can go ahead.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Raina Dastur, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
Nathan?
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Jim Bell, yes.
Stephanie's thumbs up, okay, and Julie Burke, yes. Michelle?
Michelle, do you want to?
I'm going to abstain because I came in late and I didn't hear all of Maren's presentation, so sorry.
It's okay, thank you, Michelle. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we have,
A motion to adjourn.
Use of private.
use of private vehicles policy.
Okay, that would be me. The policy subcommittee met on March 7th, and we recommended this policy, but I'd like to give a little background.
A little background like once.
No, actually, it was a very good meeting. We had some correspondence from the insurance agency who would be involved if we adopted this policy. And they made two suggestions, one of which we followed and the other we did not. So let me explain what they were. The first was on, under Part A, and then under 1A3, where it starts a copy of a personal insurance policy. The recommendation was to raise those limits to $300,000 to $500,000, and we discussed this for quite a bit. I had also had a conversation with Melissa about both of these things, and she said insurance agencies generally recommend on the high side. And we felt that we did not want to narrow our pool of people who would be willing to take on this responsibility. So we decided to keep it at $100,000, $300,000. The next change was down in Part 4, right below it. The agency recommended that we delete two sentences after what we have here. And those two sentences read, "The district's insurance is secondary and will only cover the district for bodily injury and/or property damage caused by the driver. The district's policy does not cover damage done to the teacher's staff member's vehicle." So the feeling of the agency, and I believe Melissa concurred on this, was that's already in the waiver, and it did not need to be there again. So that's what we decided to do, and then we passed it unanimously as a recommendation to the full school committee. I realize this is about the umpteenth time this has been in front of you, and it is our hope that we can sort of finish things up tonight. I know Melissa has another small change that we did not realize it's a very small change.
Okay, Melissa?
So the first small change is on the back under 2A, where it says, "In accordance with the DMV." We have the Registry of Motor Vehicles in Massachusetts. We're not the Department of Motor Vehicles, so if we want to get hung up on any terms, I just suggest that
Yep.
change. Of something I'd like to the notes to just reflect, Karen did run by some of the advice that the agency, that the school has for their insurance policy. Though my notes from the conversation we had, Karen, was that they had suggested a $500,000 million as coverage.
Oh, perhaps.
Okay. So,
Where does that go?
I didn't like the numbers at all.
but that's okay, but it's very different. So,
Yeah.
so when Karen spoke to me, what she had conveyed to me is that the insurance company of the school district suggested that parents carry $500,000 on their sections 3, 5, and 12. And my response to that is, I think that's above and beyond what our parents need to be carrying for a one-day field trip. If it, we do not need to go back to the drawing board. If it was 300, 500, I wouldn't have reacted as strongly to saying no. But as the 100, 300, that is a typical entry-level basics.
Auto coverage.
No, they suggest.
So everything is staying as is right now in it. I just wanted to correct the conversation with some numbers.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move that we adopt policy EEAG.
I have a number of comments from the admin team,
Oh,
if I may. Okay.
we're not done.
In first page, under A5, a written permission slip signed by the parents, guardians, students. I don't know, not sure why students is there.
Because a student could be 18 years old.
So the student is providing permission to the staff member or teacher to drive their child in their preschool.
If they were 18.
If the student was
But-
18, the student could sign themselves.
Yeah.
It says their child.
I'll just note I'll just
Yeah,
note
yeah.
some questions that came up.
Okay.
Under A6, second sentence, a member of the administrative team will be notified. Who is responsible for notifying a member of the administrative team? And is that the school administrative team or district administrative team? On the second page, top of the second page, number 2, C, prior permission from the driver's parents, guardians is obtained. On the front page, we've got 2 waivers linked to that are ready to go, that I believe the insurance company and Russell have both reviewed. I don't know if if one of those waivers would be appropriate for this, but wondering about what the permission slip or waiver looks like. Second page, item C, wondering if that might be parent guardian, if we're keeping language consistent. Okay, on number 1, C1, parent vehicle, parents may drive students in their personal vehicles. That is both their own children, students, and other students. In these circumstances, parents must meet the requirements of the permission process described in Section A, including a Corey check. That would be as well as a Corey check, because the Corey check is not in the first, in Section A relating to teachers, because our teachers have Corey checks. And is that, sorry.
I'm wondering if, because the teachers already have Corey checks done for their position.
That's why she's suggesting as well as. So it's
Instead of
beyond
Instead of
Section A.
including.
Okay.
Item C, number 2, begins with when transportation is provided, parents may not drive their own students. Is there anything in in C1 that's supposed to be, this genuine question, I don't know, about whether transportation is number one contingent upon whether or not the school provides transportation? The second half of number 2 might be redundant with number 3. Permission for a parent to drive their own student or child to or from an away event may be considered by the principal, and the coach must be notified. Number 3 is parents may drive their children home from an away event upon notifying the coach in person or is there some overlap there?
I don't know, but it seems to me that maybe if you would send those on to Karen as the chair, I think we would go back and address all those. I don't think we should be doing that today. We were looking at adopting
We may
this.
need another.
I think I mean, there's a lot of conversations, and to make sure all this ties together, I think that's subcommittee work, not doing it here.
Which is why we already have a meeting scheduled.
I will send these comments on.
So send all those comments from the
Our
administrative
meeting
team to
is on
Karen.
the 6th of April, if you were wondering. Okay. At 4:45.
Is that virtual, Karen?
Yes.
Robin?
Just real quick, is there actually a addendum to this, like a form addendum for that permission slip?
Yeah, there is in the, on the front page, Robin.
Did I miss it? I'm sorry.
You know, is this, I don't have it pulled up. There are 2 waivers that are linked on the first
Okay,
page
great.
of the draft policy.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
All right. Melissa? Okay. Well, we tried, Karen.
Yeah,
We're getting closer.
we did. Yeah, but that wasn't.
No, but that's very helpful. And
Yeah,
we
Yeah.
thank the admin team for their,
No, I think that's important, but
Yeah.
I think also if there are issues raised, if we know about that ahead of time, then that will give
Sorry.
us a chance to meet and talk about it and resolve those when we come to the meeting.
Yes, and I hope we can talk about pet therapy options before that meeting, too.
So let's have a date, you and I to,
I'll be away, but, well, I could.
Jim, your hand is raised?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody I'm leaving the meeting now. I'm hungry.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Bye, Jim.
okay.
Bon appetit.
We could talk on the 5th if you want.
Could I check in, could we talk after the meeting
Yeah,
about setting a
sure.
time? Thank you.
All right, moving on to, so we are postponing number 4 to our April meeting. We'll move on to number 5, 2022-2023 school choice seats.
Okie dokie, and I will present again. Okay. We are trying really hard to get the committee its full packet 2 days before the meeting. And when we do that, sometimes there is work that happens after we have sent out the packet, so this is another document that we have revised since sending out the packet. I did not bring copies. What I'm going to do is show it.
Right.
Okay. Last year, a quick overview. Last year in the elementary schools, for BES, we recommended that 3 grades have open school choice seats, a total of 10 spots. So last year for BES, we were recommending 3 grades with 10 spots. And last year at NES, we recommended that 7 grades have open spots for 25 spots at NES. The proportions are reversed this year. We are coming to you with a much smaller recommendation for NES and larger recommendation for BES. But for both schools, we are recommending smaller numbers of open school choice seats for a number of reasons. And we'll walk through them. First is the class sizes and the number of classrooms projected at each grade level. Second is the size of classrooms at particular grade levels, the size of the bodies in those classrooms, so our sixth graders are bigger. The particular academic needs and social emotional needs across the board in both elementary buildings and at particular grade levels. And we're going to throw in a little three-dimensional calculus here. At NES, Megan, Damaris, and I have looked at the number of Warwick students in each of the current grades, thinking about if Warwick does depart from the district in the following year, not next year, and make, let's say all of the Warwick kids leave and none choice back in. I don't know what's happening there. If all the Warwick kids leave, that changes numbers in the classrooms. And what impact does that departure have on whether we would be keeping single classrooms or be splitting classrooms? And we want to avoid a situation in which, if Warwick kids leave, not next year, but the year after, we want to avoid setting ourselves up to have 2 classrooms at a grade level just because we admitted school choice kids this year for the coming year. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
I'll walk you through that.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and thank you, Megan Damaris, for really saying, gosh, we need to look at that. Okay, it's easier up here because we don't have single classrooms where the same kids are in the same room all day. So these numbers have not changed for PVRS since we sent you the packet 2 days ago. We are recommending a total of 27 open school choice seats for 22-23. Yes, in grades 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, but no school choice seats for grade 12, given the challenges of, transcripts, grades, rankings, graduation requirements, et cetera.
So is that typical to not kind of, I wouldn't think many kids would be choicing for their senior year, but I was just curious about that.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
The only thing I could think of is if a student had graduated from another high school but wanted to do like a year postgraduate here. Because of programs that we offer that they might not have had been able to do at their regular school. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody or not.
I don't know if they can.
Oh, I'm sorry, Renee.
That's okay. I just had heard, I believe in previous discussion, that seniors with the credit issues, like to come on your senior year, it's very tenuous. So
Okay.
that would prevent, to guarantee graduation.
No, I was thinking.
I'm
if
not
somebody
talking
had already-
postgraduate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Separate, yeah. Okay.
Okay. I forgot one other factor. When we relooked at the initial thoughts on school choice numbers in the elementary buildings in particular, was while we have eased up on social distancing, we are still not certain what will happen 6 months from now. And there was some concern about what if we have to go back to inside the classroom constant social distancing. So that was another factor that we brought in. Okay, up on the screen.
Question.
Yeah.
So in this proposal, it is in line with your figuring on income for the budget that we passed. This would support, these numbers would support, if that were to come to fruition, the budget that we recently passed.
I think that we were conservative when we put together projected numbers for school choice. And if you'll remember, we had quite a few open seats this year compared to the numbers that we, last year, the committee approved 88 new school choice seats. And gosh, I didn't bring that number. I have that number. We had nowhere near that number kids come in for school choice. So on your screens, we'll take a look first at BES. So a reminder that when we receive a school choice student, the district receives $5,000 from the sending district, and similarly, when one of our towns sends someone out, we pay $5,000 to the receiving district. Pre-K is a different story. we could include pre-K in school choice, but we would not get the $5,000 for a student if they are not, if they don't have special needs. So my understanding is the district has not typically opened up school choice spots. And as you recall from Maren and Brenda's presentation, we've got a lot of kids already lining up for preschool. I don't think that we have space. That would be my recommendation. So at BES, the recommendation is to open 4 seats. We're projecting 2 classrooms of 15 students each. In grade 1, similarly, open up 4 seats, 2 in each of 2 classrooms. Grade 2, while we have 2 classrooms with only 14 students in, given the needs of the grade 1 students right now, who will be our second graders, recommendation not to open up school choice seats. We have 1 grade, sorry, so, yes. All right, sorry. Sometimes looking back and forth, I get confused about these are not our current numbers. These are next year's projections. We're projecting 1 class with 17 kids next year.
For grade?
Grade 3, recommending 2 seats. 1 class of 18 kids in grade 4, recommending 2 seats. Grade 5, we have 2 classrooms, recommending 3, and we've got a big grade 6. With 24 kids in 1 room, so not recommending any seats there.
So when you say there's seats, in addition to what we see there, or is that baked into this, like that 15 and 15, does that include the 4 slots?
No.
Okay, so it's in addition to.
The 4, so for grade 1, so for grade, are you talking about grade 1?
Well, I'm just, all those numbers, they don't have school choice in there.
No, they don't.
Okay.
No, because the school committee has not yet discussed or approved. Shall I go on to NES? Okay. I want to point out, remember, we are adding a classroom at BES. We're decreasing by 1 classroom at NES. At BES, we have, within the span of K through 5, we've got 2 grades with a single classroom. Not as worried about grade 6 because those kids the following year head off to the high school. Okay? So these are revised numbers. These are different from what you received in your packet the other day.
Oh.
Okay. Let me make this smaller. Okay. Having looked again at the Warwick numbers, we are recommending at NES that the only grade that have open seats be grade 2. Grade 2 currently will have 2 classrooms with 15 and 14 students. We are recommending 3 open seats in that class. That would bring us up to, if all 3 seats were filled, 17 kids in each room. I'll go backwards for a minute.
So are there no social distancing now,
So we've taken that out. So we presented that with or without social distancing to you. After talking again with Dr. Carrier and Mrs. Damaris, we agreed we wanted to go to 1 flat recommendation.
So is it including or not?
It is thinking that if we had to go back, it is including, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's including 3 feet?
If 3 feet required, yep.
Okay.
Kindergarten at NES next year already has 22 kids. We did not want to open up seats. We don't want to recommend opening seats because if we have just a couple kids move in to Northfield for kindergarten, then we're looking at a very large kindergarten and possibly splitting. Same with grade 1. It already has 21 students in it.
Jeannie?
Going back to kindergarten at NES, if you had more students move in so that you would have to do a second classroom, would that then give chance for school choice seats? I know it's a hard thing to predict, but...
Yeah, so we are, if we had a couple of kids move into Northfield, we could do a kindergarten with 24 kids. I've taught kindergarten. And
Oh,
had
1
23
class.
Of 1
All right.
class, yeah. If we split into 2 classes, we then are picking up the cost of another teacher and health insurance that we have not budgeted for.
Okay. But that's a possibility that could happen.
It is.
And
If-
then would that allow for some school choice seats?
The committee would have to go back and vote to open up school choice seats then, and I was just reviewing the state regulations about votes. I have to go back and look and see when you would need to revote to open up some new seats. Grade 3 is our current grade 2 that Stephanie mentioned in her citizens' comments. We've got 22 kids projected in that class. We're not recommending opening up school choice seats for that group. Okay, grade 4. I want to get myself to my notes. Given grade 4 and the classrooms, we're not recommending opening up seats. Grade 5 is a really interesting one, and I'd like to walk through that one with you. Okay. Grade 5 next year is projected to have 29 kids. If new kids move in, then we increase the class size. That's well and good. Next year's grade 5 will have 6 Warwick students. So a total of 29 kids, 6 of whom are from Warwick. The following year, if all those Warwick kids leave, we would be dropping down to 23 kids. And that could allow us to go back to 1 classroom for that group.
But that's for two years.
Not next year, the year after. So this is just the for instance, thinking about tripping over into a definite need for a second classroom. If we were to admit some school choice seats in next year's grade 5, we could put ourselves in the position of grade 6 of having to have 2 classrooms, mainly because we admitted school choice kids this year, for the coming year.
I'm going to ask a question that may be obvious to everyone else in the room, but so if 22, so essentially we are currently allowing at NES up to 22 kids in 1 classroom, looks like. So kindergarten has 22 and grade 3 currently, and grade 1 has 21. So if we have 2 classrooms, why don't we allow up to 22 in each classroom?
Are you saying, for instance, for grade 2, next
Right.
year's grade 2, why not have many more kids?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. We could bring in all kinds of kids,
Yeah.
bring in money. So that grade 2 that has 29 kids next year, 4 of them are from Warwick. If they leave the following year, that brings us down to 25 for grade 3, which may need to be split. We could possibly have a grade 3. With both principals, there is an understandable concern that, in general, in the elementaries, we are seeing more challenging behaviors. We're seeing more challenging behaviors, both in the amount of challenging behavior and the types of behaviors. And I'm hearing from my building leaders that they are seeing some behaviors that they have never seen before in their careers. And our initial numbers that we suggested when we sent you the packet the other day were bigger, but upon further conversation, there was a feeling that we need to make sure we're taking care of the kids in front of us before, in general, opening the doors wide to a significant increase in the number of kids in each elementary building. Does that answer?
Yeah, it does. It almost, just from a purely parental perspective, I would almost rather my kid be in one of the split classrooms because they would have a smaller class size. So that's.
Yes.
So this is where I don't know I don't
Yep.
know it from an administrative or a teacher perspective.
And the research on class size is really interesting. The Tennessee STAR study took place maybe 20 years ago, and for a long time was the what is the word, Lodestone, the study that many of us kept returning to, and it seemed to indicate that lower class size, particularly K-1-2, had long-term benefits for children. I think we have begun to understand that the research is more nuanced than that, and that the quality of the teacher and the instruction and classroom management plays an enormous role. And I have seen classrooms of 23 or 24 little kids with an extraordinary teacher that are doing beautifully. And I have seen classrooms of 10, 11, 12 kids with a teacher who hasn't had the opportunity for similar professional development that struggle. So yes, we want our kids to have more attention. We want lower class sizes. And it's not a given that a class of 25 doesn't have the same quality of experience as two classes of 12 and 13. Renee, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I would echo that. I myself have had classes of 24 and have seen the benefit of that in building community and whatnot, and also experienced small classes that give challenge because they just don't have as many opportunities, really. And my only other thought on that for the school committee of this conversation in general is just what we learned in needing to close the small schools, and when we kind of flip to a heavier school choice, if we lean too heavy into school choice, it's really not strong business-wise because of the only $5,000 return on those students and the cost of an additional teacher and to pay the benefits and all of that. So, you know, we did close 2 small schools that we really delved into that and saw that. And I think our own financial overseer, I believe I've maybe quoting it, you know, it's kind of cannibalization of school districts that school choice even exists. Like it's not a good situation, that it was a poor idea on the state's part.
Oh, yeah.
Surprise. That, you know, that led us here. So I think we need to learn from our past experience not to lean too heavily on school choice. So I'm very pleased to hear that, you know, there's a possibility of really being responsible with that.
Okay. Stephanie has her hand raised, and then Alan. Okay, Stephanie. Oh, she's going to type. Okay. So grade 2 with 29. And if 4 Warwick kids left leaves 25, and you still may need to split the class, why not have the option for school choice seats if ultimately we will have to split them?
That's a good question, and we did not budget for splitting next year's grade 3 at NES. When we looked at the numbers, when we first presented these graphs to the school committee, we talked about a single classroom. So that's a choice that the school committee could make, and we would need to figure out where we find the money to support another teacher.
Alan?
Yeah, so I want to come back to your comments because you're right on point. So if you ever are going, when you're taking school choice kids, you never do it if it's going to end up, you know, splitting classes and so forth. So if you still have to pay a teacher and turn on the lights and all of that. So if you have enrollment such that you can take a few school choice kids because of the limited funding, that makes sense. If you take more and you have to do something, hire additional teachers or paras or whatever, it makes no sense at all. I had another comment, but I forgot. I'll have to come back.
Okay. In the meantime, Robin has a question. So, Robin, go ahead.
You know, I think I'll just withdraw it. Never mind. I got the answer I need. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So, any further discussion? Oh,
So
you remember?
it's off topic, but on topic. Says I don't know enough about the community. So we don't know of any housing developments or anything happening in Bernardston or Northfield, because that's something that I would always reach out just to see is anything in the works. Did some contractor, you know, just buy a large piece of land or something. So that's something. The other thing is, and you probably have this, you have relationships with your realtor agents to let you know if some families are moving in, because when we have small classes like this, you get a few families with some kids in the same grade. All of a sudden, because you took school choice, you're now scrambling. So it's a good practice if you could make that contact
good idea.
to
Yep.
someone, reach out, because they may give you a heads up that you're not aware of.
In a previous district, we made a beautiful brochure about the district that was very upbeat and bright and not text-heavy, and gave it to all the local realtors as a sort of a marketing tool for the district to encourage the families to look at the public schools and, you know.
One question, so does grade 9, are you factoring in tech school and kids that may be leaving for tech?
We did. Mr. Burke and I went through grade by grade what the enrollments are now, what the projected enrollment is for next year, and I believe that we did factor in.
Factor it in.
Yep.
Okay. Melissa?
So I'm curious about how much flexibility there is when these numbers are voted. So, for instance, if a family moved out of district now, right, and had a fifth grade student, but really wanted to keep their child, right, consistent in sixth grade next year, but there's no open slots. But they've been with these kids since kindergarten and was kind of planning on coming to Pioneer, where in seventh grade there would be spots, right? So I'm curious about flexibility in these numbers. I know, so one, flexibility in the numbers, right? I do also know of a local kindergarten family who's projected probably in the numbers for kindergarten coming in, but will most likely school choice out of our district because there is no before and after school program, and she's a teacher. So she can't do that. So without having some of those benefits of before and after school program, prediction of kids who are going to come in for kindergarten, even when we talked about the preschool, right? Those are just estimated numbers. Who knows of those who will actually enroll in preschool? And then the other thing I have is, do we have anything, or will we ever revisit if a staff member works here in the district, but they live outside, can they bring their child as a benefit of working here to the district as a school choice child? So 3 questions.
I could answer the first, the last first, perhaps. So in getting ready for this conversation, I've been reviewing existing policy, and I know the manual is just about ready for, so we have policy on the books that allows out-of-district faculty to enroll their children in full-time offerings at 10% of the yearly voted tuition rate. Now, that could be for faculty, let's pretend, who live in a town that doesn't have a choice program. Right, so if I'm making up a town here, sorry, my colleagues, and I'm going to say, what's in the, I don't know, Huntington. I have no idea where.
Huntington.
Sorry, Huntington. The state law assumes that a district will participate in school choice every year unless the committee votes affirmatively that it will not participate. Otherwise, the assumption is districts participate. Okay. We have a faculty member from that town, Huntington. Their town doesn't participate in school choice. They don't have the option to try and choice their child into our district. They, according to existing policy, have the option, and there's one 2-line policy, and then there's some that's longer in a 1996 policy. So it appears that staff who live in a town who don't have the option to school choice could bring their children here paying a very minimal amount of tuition. that make sense?
Wouldn't that only be for pre-KK?
No.
Any
That could be
grade.
for any grade.
Any grade, okay.
Yep.
I have a comment that will go along with this.
But they don't pay.
They don't have the option of school choice.
So,
And it's,
So they'd
now,
have to
now it's,
pay.
now,
tuition in.
they could tuition
So-
it. Now, I suggested it as they don't have the option of school choice as an example. We have a number of faculty, so I've been reviewing enrollment. I've gotten a list of all our school choice kids. We have a number of faculty who have choiced, who don't live in our 4 towns, but they must live in towns that do participate in school choice, and they've choiced their kids in. I believe it would be a conversation for the school committee if, for instance, we don't have, we've got a faculty member who lives in Greenfield, this is a make-believe situation. They want to bring their child to grade 4 at BES, pretend there's no open school choice seats. We have a policy that says they will be allowed to enroll their children in regular full-time program for 10% of the tuition rate. So that's a for instance that I'll leave for the committee to consider.
So if I would make this comment because I find this very interesting. This is a benefit, and this belongs in negotiations with the teachers. So this should be a conversation that should be run by the attorney, because any contracts that I've been involved in, you negotiate that benefit and what that would be. So if the policy isn't consistent with what's permissible, I haven't heard it this way. So it's something you might want to talk to the attorney about.
Yeah, well, I think, so that, exactly, negotiations as a benefit, right, if you think of it that way. But if we vote on the numbers, right, and we say there is no school choice for a certain grade, but a staff member is able to bring their child through school choice.
If the staff member is going through, okay, kids who are already in school choice are ours forever.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So if there's a faculty member who wants to choice their child in for the first time, and they want to choice their child in for a grade for which the committee, let's say, has voted there are no spots, they aren't able to do that. If we don't have a school choice spot, we don't have a school choice spot. The law is very clear in letter and spirit that we must treat all school choice interested parties the same.
Yeah, so even if it would be negotiated.
No, so that's a different question. Alan raises an excellent question about should this be something that's in the contract? It could be.
Okay.
And the committee has already voted in 1996, and this is an undated policy, to allow faculty to tuition, and I will leave that, that's a later.
Yeah.
The question of folks who might be interested but would like to try to choice in but are discouraged by our current lack of before and after school. I know of 2 teachers who live in town and are thinking of trying to choice out elsewhere. It's a real challenge. You had a third. The law is the committee must vote by June 1st on school choice seats. So
Yeah, so we don't have any flexibility with, once we vote 0, and then a family is moving out of town, but wants to stay in, we don't have any flexibility to then look at those situations individually and negotiate.
Right, so okay.
There could be a revote. The law, sorry, I'm looking at my, I believe that if the committee were to vote tonight, for instance, on a certain number of seats, if the committee voted, I will go back and look, I believe that a vote to change those numbers before June 1st would be okay. The committee voted mid-year this year to close seats. Yeah.
Right, so I get the revote. I think the reason why I'm asking these specific questions is because the number of spots is so tight that there is no flexibility options. So if a family moves out, let's say, of our district, and it opens up seats, right? And
Oh,
so
I
someone
see what you
wanted
mean.
to come in, oh, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, it's hard.
having
Yeah.
voting in 0 feels like it gives like 0 flexibility of anything. So even if a family moved out of district, we don't know, people move, come in, that it wouldn't even allow that seat to be backfilled or whatever. So.
Yeah, see, and there's so many, I mean, it's a really interesting point you're bringing up, but there's so many nuances to this, because that's why I go back to negotiation parts. I haven't seen like a superseded policy on something like this. But when you have there's a whole process for allowing kids to come back in, and it's not automatic, for favoritism, other than if you already have a sibling here, then, they would get preference. But allowing, having an open seat, and you declare there's an open seat, you can't say, oh, we now have an open seat, we're going to let you come in. You've got to go through that whole proper vetting process to before that selection's made. So I was trying to, in my mind, when you were talking, try to sort out, well, how would you do that? Because if you had 4 families that wanted their child in 3rd grade, and so they're sort of waiting, but we closed all the seats. And then you say, oh, we had a family move out, we can now do that. And I'm not familiar either with if there's a timeline you could do that. But so let's say there was, and then you said, oh, but there's a staff person that wants to have that seat. That was just sort of very difficult for me to process on how we would do that. But I would say.
Spot zoning, you can't do it.
You can't do it,
Or
right,
if
right.
someone had wanted the seat, then choiced elsewhere because there wasn't a seat, but then a family moves and the seat's back open.
But I would, I'd want to ask the attorney about,
I think he's addressed it before, and it
Yes.
has to be a blind process.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
It has to. But I'm talking about addressing the, because you had said, and you might be right, that if we have a policy and it hasn't negotiated, we could do it. Maybe that's so, but I've never seen. There's usually language in a contract that says, if there's a seat available and the teacher, that it was a benefit, and they had either a break in tuition, and in one contract, they were just allowed to come in. So,
Yeah, I thought.
Robin has her hand raised. Anne, did you?
I just have one comment, and that, I've done these minutes for a number of years in various capacities, and because this district is very close to the New Hampshire and Vermont borders, they can't choice in, and I think that's where the percentage tuition arrangement came from. Faculty members choicing in from a different
That's what
state,
it was.
not so much as a district that doesn't participate in choice.
It came about from a faculty member.
Oh, I
who
see.
lived in New
Because the
Hampshire.
school
I see.
doesn't have to receive choice students in order to participate in sending choice students. Because Irving doesn't receive choice students, but they sure as heck sent a lot of students to Pioneer for several years running.
Irving, Pioneer, the high school?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Irving is an elementary district.
Right, but I'm just saying, they tuition to.
Monica
give
Right.
money,
would then
but
come
they
here.
certainly can participate in sending their students via choice, they just don't receive choice students. They vote not to, unless something has changed, but
that's
for years,
allowable.
they voted not to accept choice students into the Irving.
I thought you said that it was.
No, I'm not, are you so that would be new to me, that a district is saying we want to participate in choice in one direction. I didn't think the law allowed that.
No, it's because it's an elementary school.
Oh,
Irving,
okay.
So Irving as an elementary school does not have school choice when they graduate.
that's a
from
different
6th grade,
story.
Then
Yes,
they tuition.
that's
That's
different.
that's
Yep.
the difference.
Robin has been patient with her hand raised.
Oh, that's right. I try to write things down so I can be concise. 3 things I wanted to just mention. We did vote this year, mid-year, to close seats. So it is, we do have some flexibility somehow because we did do that. The other thing is it's going to be impossible to plan for every nuance that happens. You could go back to the Warwick thing and you could say, okay, we're going to lose money now this year because we can't open seats. And then the following year, we could really be in a situation where we've got to have, instead of having a class of 25, which we could get by possibly on, we would have to split it because we had 26 because we opened seats. So I really appreciate the forethought that you've done looking at this. The other thing is, I somehow recall a case-by-case thing with some kid that moved out of town but wanted to finish up, and they had to come to the school committee, and some student, sorry. And I thought, somehow in my mind, I remember a discussion or somebody coming to the school committee about whether or not they could finish out. I don't even remember what the outcome was. The other thing is that break in tuition for that one teacher that isn't out there but wanted to bring their child here. That's actually a pretty significant raise for that teacher that nobody else gets. So, I mean, that seems like that would definitely be a negotiated thing and not something that would be a policy, because, you know, if a teacher comes into the district and, you know, what's our tuition? What was our tuition from? Whatever it was. Say it was 8,000 or 10,000 or 18 or whatever from Vernon, and then they come in and they only have to pay 10% of that. I mean, that's like giving them like a $10,000 raise above everybody else. So that's a really bizarre thing in the policy. I would get to that as quick as we could.
As a general rule, and it doesn't come to the committee, but in the different districts I've been in, it's a general rule that if a family moves out after the April vacation, we let them stay. It's never come to the committee. The administration just allows them to stay to finish up the year.
Okay.
It's the right thing to do. So I would assume that we would do that here.
I am almost positive that I saw an old policy. I've asked Karen, I think, I can't re-find that policy. It mentioned, I thought, juniors and seniors in high school who leave after a certain date in the spring could finish out. So I'm on the lookout for where we have that written down.
Okay, because I know we've done that in the past. Thank you.
Nathan?
Yeah, thank you. It might be a good idea for us to look at either a policy or possibly a district amendment for the circumstance that Melissa was talking about, right? If a family leaves, right, and that creates open slots, right, that then we could accept that number of choice students, because it wouldn't be affecting class sizes, it wouldn't be affecting staff, right? So that's something we could possibly look at. I also don't think it's a good idea to look at choice as a source of revenue, because it's not really set up that way. Certainly if the number of choice kids dictate that you need to hire more staff, the income that comes in from the choice doesn't balance out the additional staffing costs. So, thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Just a couple of things too. So we have even had families leave and who have wanted to stay, keep their kids. So they've, been wanting to move out of town and wanted to keep their kids in our districts, and we didn't allow that.
Well,
so
they couldn't pay tuition?
No.
Deb? Oh.
Because we didn't have school choice. So, the spots. So we have to, if we're going to make changes, we have to really kind of, I think, do a deep dive into it. And the other point I forget what the other point was now. I forget. Yes, please.
So I was just rereading a DESE FAQ on school choice. The mechanism they describe for allowing children to enter as slots open up is if there's a wait list. But there's only a wait list if there were open spots for people to sign up for.
Right.
Yeah, and I feel like I should clarify. I didn't mean this as like a rolling. I meant that sometimes it happens at the end of a school year in the summer. So as school opens that was all. I was not thinking that if a family moved out in October and opened a seat, that we would go to a wait list, because that was exactly the term in my head, right? Is that for blind admission, blind enrollment, you would have, a wait list. And I wasn't suggesting that.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more along the lines as things shift sometimes in the summer, beginning of the school year, right? That's where my comment was coming from, not rolling throughout the year, because that would be a disaster.
Um,
I just wanted to clarify that.
Stephanie, your hand was raised. Did you want to chat? Okay. We voted to close seats mid-year, but can we vote to open seats after June 1st?
Your answer was yes.
Yeah, I want to say
Yeah, you can.
yes.
You can. Before November 1st. They have a July date in November.
We're looking, Stephanie.
Okay. And again, assuming there are seats available prior to November 1st. The question is, could the committee vote to increase the number of school choice seats?
If we vote now on these, could we vote to open more up after June 1st?
I want to say yes. We would, if there are more apps, so we're going to be doing things in a more streamlined way this year, in a more deliberate way. So for instance, all school choice needs to happen through the superintendent's office, not in the schools individually. It must happen centrally. We will be, except when we put the applications up, we'll accept applications and we will not look at them until the date we establish as, this is the date we'll look at applications. And on that date, if we have more applicants for any one of the grades that has open seats than seats available, that's when we'll do a random lottery. And again, we do not look at whether a student has special education needs, anything like that.
It's just a name or a number.
And we could then, after that date, if there have been more applicants than seats, we establish a waiting list then. Must do, if we're going to do a second lottery, it must take place prior to November 1. I am going to go out on a limb and say, yes, the committee
I
could
think so.
could open up more seats.
Stephanie, a second part of that question, and then Jeannie. So if a family moved out over the summer, like Melissa said, then we could vote to open choice seats for those kiddos.
Not just for those, the law is very clear in letter and spirit that districts should not be creating seats for specific children or families. That goes
Unless there was
against
a waiting list. If they were on a waiting list and then the seats became available.
Then we're not then the committee isn't creating seats for those students. It's simply opening up seats that had previously been identified and admitting students from, but not the case of wanting to support a beloved family that has been in the community forever, that moved out and then came back. The spirit and letter of the law do not permit that.
Jeannie.
I'm wondering if we should table this till our next meeting. Patricia said that the numbers changed after we received the information that we had previously received a little bit, and I found those graphs that you put up very helpful. And it seems like that we have a lot of questions that we need to contemplate as far as whatever, and we have a little bit of time that we can make a decision on school choice seats.
When are the school choice applications due?
So we haven't set the date because we haven't had the numbers.
Right.
So there's absolutely the school committee could wait until its mid-April meeting. We run the risk of having some interested families go look at other districts, because if other districts have seats open, they'll apply where there are seats. So however we go.
I think we could declare those seats this evening, and that the other nuances that we've been talking about are if all these other things happen, somebody leaves, and other seats we're going to declare open, all those things are in the background, if you will, answers to those questions and what our flexibility is. But I don't know, when people are looking, they're looking now.
Yeah, I remembered what I was going to say earlier. So the perception is, so if you are desirable from a school choice standpoint, I hear a lot of in the community forums and just at meetings that Pioneer's losing kids to school choice. When really our numbers our enrollment was up from last year. So it's, it's something that there's a misconception about school choice. I truly feel, so even with myself, I automatically think we should take all the kids. I know the educators in the room are like, ah! But, you know, I'm just saying, there's this perception that the more kids you have choicing in, the better your school is. It's true.
Except the communities are subsidizing that because you're only getting
Right.
$5,000.
Yes.
and the
No,
communities are
absolutely. I'm just
subsidizing the rest.
saying the average family or the average, person, that's the perception. So we're really for NES, we only are going to have 3 seats available. Now, I'm not so sure that the 3 fee is necessary. I know that we're coming out of 2 years of pandemic. I just think that we're in a very different place. That's just how I feel, my personal opinion on it. So, would that number be 6 if we weren't considering 3 feet?
After,
Because the numbers were very different with
they were.
no 3 feet. So it looks like we were going to allow 6 at NES with 3 feet required and 20 without 3 feet required. I'm just wondering if we could leave it to the committee to vote on whether or not that social distancing should be. It sounds like it was
I thought that was currently being encouraged with the no mask policy, was to keep a 3-foot distance.
That's where you get into policy versus procedure.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I
Yeah.
thought that was Desi's recommendation, I'm not sure, but if you're doing away with the masks, to maintain the 3-foot distancing.
Again, that's as of now.
Yes.
And it's, we're looking at next school year.
I'm just saying.
Yep, but when we were originally presented this, we were presented with it both ways.
I see that.
Yeah. So,
and the NES numbers, when we shared them, we had not done the review of Warwick children.
Okay.
And the implications of the possible departure of Warwick kids.
Melissa?
I have one final question. And assuming due diligence was done, that any current school choice families, for instance, at Northfield, that they don't have any siblings that are expected to enroll in kindergarten or first grade.
No, I didn't look at incoming, well, hang on.
So if we have current school
Yep.
choice families, did we look to see if their siblings would be
I would have had
enrolling
to
in
contact
kindergarten?
all the families.
Well, that could play a part in this, unfortunately.
Have to take their siblings, you just have to take them if you have openings.
Yeah, that's right. We don't have to
Yeah.
take them. We take them if there are openings.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
So families aren't grandfathered?
So.
Correct. So this
There's a
is where,
sibling preference.
Preference,
But they are
okay.
not grandfathered. They're not, I'm
But
trying to not use that word. They're not automatically.
Automatically.
Yeah.
But do they get preference?
Yes.
Do they go to the top of the list?
They do.
I guess.
but if we don't have the slots. So
So that,
I guess this is kind of getting to the root of my concern of having such small, tight numbers, that if there is that lack of, or not lack, there's no flexibility in the sense, but if we know that we have current school choice families who have a younger child that they would like to enroll in kindergarten, that they wouldn't be able to because we voted tonight, or to have 0 school choice.
and that-
I don't feel comfortable with that.
And that in turn could domino that they would then take their current school choice student out.
Robin? And then Nathan.
Just a quick thing, I appreciate that, we're trying to make money for the district, but what we really owe to the people that are paying the bill right now is to ensure that the children in district get the best education for the money that they're paying. And in order to do that, you want to try to keep the classrooms on the smaller side rather than the larger. And when you talk about that Warwick thing and the splitting, you know, I mean, we can't really predict. We don't know what's going to happen with Warwick. We still don't know. And I don't know how we can try to make a decision about Warwick. The best decision is to make the decision that will be best for our students. And I think that that's just holding the line this year, just holding the line yet one more year because Warwick is doing their thing. So that's kind of backhanded, I suppose, but I just don't, you know, we owe it to the district that's paying the bill to give them the best bang for the buck. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks, Robin. Nathan?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to a point that was made a little while ago. I don't know about the perception of Pioneer losing students, but the elementary schools aren't, right? The only school in the district that consistently loses students is the high school, and that's been going on for a number of years. So I don't think there's an outside perception that the elementary schools are losing students. It's that the high school loses students to choice. Thank you.
Yeah, when I say that, I meant like the district.
Yeah, but it's not the elementary schools. The elementary schools, if anything, are growing.
No, I
It's
know,
when kids-
they're in the
It's
district.
when kids get to the high school, they choose to go to tech.
Yeah.
Tech school, right.
Yeah, and I meant the district, Nathan, that's all. Okay, anyone else?
Well, Jeannie made a suggestion that we put this off.
It was just a suggestion, it wasn't a motion.
No, we have a suggestion to put it off, or we can act tonight. I don't know if people feel comfortable with all the conversation about taking a vote tonight.
I think we could do that and then revisit it if necessary before June 1st. I think it's important to get it out there that we do have openings.
I'm not sure, but I don't think you can declare seats open and then in the next month declare that they're not. If you open them, I haven't come across that nuance, but I think once you declare they're opened. Is there a different interpretation?
Karen's point was it was a conservative number, if anything, they would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
administration's
Yeah,
recommendation.
that's what I was going to say, that I think,
There would be time to increase them if
That's correct. That's the way I was thinking.
administration warranted.
what I'm hearing in the conversation tonight is that we're worried that these aren't enough.
Right.
There aren't enough seats that we're opening up. So I think, I would feel comfortable voting on the numbers that we've been given tonight to say we're going to participate in school choice. And then if we decide later on that we do have more wiggle room, we can open up more seats later.
When do kids need to enroll for the next school year? I'm ashamed, I am a parent, and, The num-
Resident doesn't have,
Right.
may enroll at any time.
I was wondering about like Melissa's kindergarten question. Like,
Kindergartners need to register.
they are already registered?
They're registering
Right
already.
now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So may I make a motion that we accept the recommended school choice numbers for 2022, 2023 as presented tonight?
I'll second that.
And could you just review what those are?
Thank you.
Please, thank you.
Right in front of you.
At PVRS, in grade 7, 5 seats, grade 8, 5 seats, grade 9, 10 seats, grade 10, 5 seats, grade 11, 2 seats, and no seats in grade 12. At Bernardston Elementary School, in kindergarten, 4 seats.
Excuse me, Patricia, is this with 3 foot required?
We're making one recommendation.
Just the 3 foot
Yeah.
distancing?
Assuming,
No, just the number of
It's-
seats.
No, I'm talking about, but we're doing the 3 foot required.
Then,
Not
as, I've taken that out of the recommendation on the screen.
I'm just looking at the paper that I
Yeah.
have, that I can't see those numbers.
So, let me make that a little bit bigger. So after further discussion with the principals, we took out that, and I apologize, I think our initial, we were trying to
It's okay.
open up avenue for conversation about school choice and the thinking around it's different. And then after more conversation, we realized we wanted to present one set of recommendations. So for BES in kindergarten, that would be kindergarten, 4 seats. First grade, 4 seats. Second grade, no seats. Third grade, 2 seats. Fourth grade, 2 seats. Fifth grade, 3 seats. Sixth grade, 0 seats. In Northfield Elementary School, kindergarten, 0 seats. First grade, 0 seats. Second grade, 3 seats. Third grade, 0 seats. Fourth grade, 0 seats. Fifth and sixth grade, 0 seats.
Thank you.
So Karen made the motion, Robin seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, Melissa?
Melissa Gary, no.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Rena Dastu, yes.
Robin Knight, yes.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Stephanie Winslow abstained. Is there anyone else on?
No, somebody, Jim left.
Jim left.
Oh, what
Is
about
Michelle still
Michelle?
on?
Michelle's still there? There we go. Yeah, thank you.
Michelle,
Voted
yes. And, oh, I feel, I'm going to abstain. Julie Burke abstain. So that motion passes, correct? Yes, okay.
What's the count?
The count,
Yeah, 1 no, 1 abstain, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 abstain, sorry, 7 yes. 1 no.
okay.
2 absent.
Okay, thank you. Now, it is 9.
One bit of that unanticipated, the fiscal
Oh, okay,
overseer.
okay. So, why don't we, so other business not anticipated. Okay, yes.
We sent to you a draft contract for the new fiscal overseer. I met with the recommended person. Her name is Cami Lamika. She was recommended to us, I had thought by Rick Kingsley. It actually was by Jay Sullivan and the folks at DESE. Cami worked for Melanson Heath as an auditor and then spent 22 years as a school business administrator in several different districts, including regional districts, most recently in Northampton, and she comes highly recommended by our legal services firm as well. I quite enjoyed my hour-long meeting online with her. The committee asked for clarification from DESE about the, if I could send these around, the tenure of the fiscal overseer. We got a letter from DESE this afternoon at 12:30. This came via their legal counsel. DESE requires that the contract with the new fiscal overseer be for a period of 3 years. And they're recommending that the contract include a provision allowing for early termination if the commissioner determines that the district no longer needs active fiscal oversight. They are making clear we still have to have a fiscal overseer. But I hope this is what the committee was seeking, which is clarification from DESE about what the language of the 2018 special legislation actually says. And I have to say, I agree with their interpretation.
So it didn't clarify for me. I mean, we know what the acts of, Section 18 are. What the question was, and maybe it's here, I just got this. The question was specifically, what does DESE know about the district that they would recommend or demand that we require an overseer for 3 years, because it says that, you know, if we want a petition or whatever to say we'd like to end that early, you know, they take that under advisement. But does it say in here why they decided it had to be a 3-year extension? That's the information I want. I want to know, what did they look at to say, we want, because without that, it just sort of suggested that they know something we don't know, like you're in trouble, or you need oversight in this area or in that area because we're not comfortable with letting you go right now. So, I don't know.
Okay, Jeannie?
Alan, I'm thinking that as long as we owe them money, they're going to have somebody watching over us.
Correct.
That's how I see it. So until that time is done, we're going to be required to have an overseer. At this point, it's a 3-year commitment they're asking for. The next time it could be 3, the one after that would be 1, which would make it the 10 years.
And so that makes sense. Thank you.
That's the only thing I
Right.
can think of.
And I guess I'm hoping that's the only thing there is. I just was hoping they would give a general comment as they look to the future of the next 3 years. Other than that, what we owe, did they have any conversations with you or anything they talked about that, other than what Jeannie just said, that we need an overseer?
They do have that statement there that
Yeah.
says, nor do we believe the district has taken the steps to achieve long-term sustainability.
Right.
And so they have some ideas about that.
They have been observing me.
Okay.
They have been observing Rick Kingsley, and Rick Kingsley reports monthly to the commissioner. I have my monthly call with Jay, and they speak with me, I'd say every month. In between that monthly call, there's some other kind of communication. Given the amount of time that Rick Kingsley has had to work with the district in the past 4 or 5 months, given the troubles that the district has had, preparing for the budget season and completing the excess and deficiency certification process, it doesn't surprise me that DESE is saying the district has not yet taken the steps it needs to take to be out of fiscal oversight. We don't have a permanent director of finance and operations yet. We have an interim superintendent. We don't have a permanent superintendent in place. I'm not surprised that DESE is saying not only is the loan still outstanding, but, you know, the district has some work to do.
Thank you for that. That's what I was looking for, because I thought it was more than just you have an overseer for 3 years. They've had some other thinking behind that, and there may be even more to that, but thank you.
Raina?
Also reading this letter, it says that the commissioner may authorize the district to terminate employment of the fiscal overseer not less than 3 years after the appointment. The commissioner has not been asked to terminate the employment of a fiscal overseer, so I think the assumption that we would be outside of the need for fiscal employment was a false one, given that it was not actually requested of the commission.
So essentially, when we feel we're ready, and when our new director of finance feels we're ready, we can then request it. And I'm assuming then we'll either get a absolutely or here's why not, right?
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
You know, we still have subcommittee reports to do.
So there's the draft contract.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have to do that tonight, or can we read it?
Well,
Yeah,
so
it sounds like
we
we do.
sent this out, I think we sent this out 2 days ago. And of course, the committee could not vote tonight. The state is eager to have a fiscal overseer back in place. We don't have one because Rick Kingsley ended his contract.
So you have interviewed her, you've had, so you feel comfortable
Yes.
with her? Okay.
This
And,
sorry.
yep, no, go ahead.
The contract is identical to the 2 contracts that Rick Kingsley signed, except for their names, gendered
And dates.
pronouns. Rick Kingsley was earning $75 an hour. Ms. Lamika has asked for $80 per hour, which certainly seems reasonable. On the first page of the draft agreement, item number 2, It was written March 1st through February 28th, 2025. Today's letter suggests that we might want to add language allowing for early termination of the contract if the commissioner determines that the district no longer needs it. So I guess I am asking the committee to consider approving this contract with the addition of language that allows early termination if the commissioner determines we no longer need active fiscal oversight.
And we would initiate that request. All right, then I was going to vote no. But with that change, then I could support this.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
All right, second?
I'll second.
Raina? All right, any further discussion?
So that motion included the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. Melissa?
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton, yes.
It's late. Karen O'Neill, yes.
Alan Genovese, yes.
Rena Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Robin Knight, Blyden, yes.
I can't even spell tonight.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Stephanie wrote yes, and Julie Burke Northfield, yes. Okay, I'm thinking that we could postpone the subcommittee reports to our next scheduled meeting of April 14th. We would need a motion to do so and to adjourn.
I was just going to say, if there's any pressing issues going on with any of the subcommittees, if those could be addressed and then postponed, or just eliminate them until our April meeting.
April's good.
Yeah, and if, speak now or forever hold your peace, no. Does anyone have anything they want to report on us from a subcommittee standpoint that can't wait until April? Okay.
I move that we adjourn.
A second?
Okay.
Melissa Gary, yes.
Jeannie Milton Bernardston, yes.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Rena Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Robin Knight, Blyden, yes.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Stephanie's given a thumbs up yes, and Julie Burke Northfield, yes. All right, thank you. Oh, and Michelle, sorry, Michelle.
That's okay.
Enjoy the sunshine.
All right, bye, Michelle, thanks.
Yeah, bye.